Picture this. A brand new grocery store opens in Milwaukee, the kind of place people in the neighborhood have been wishing for because the nearest fresh produce was miles away. At first, it feels like a win. Finally, you can walk down the street and buy milk, eggs, bread, but then the whispers start. Customers notice food with yesterday's date, and not in the freshly baked this morning kind of way. Expired milk, bread that's already past its sell-by. People start taking photos, posting online, and that's when it hits. Selling expired food isn't actually illegal in most of the U.S. Not even close? Shocking? Sure. But here's where it gets messier. There's no federal law stopping a store from selling you that expired milk. Not one. The U.S. government basically shrugged and said, states can handle it. And then a bunch of states looked back and said, nah, we're good. The result? In huge parts of the country, stores can sell expired products as long as they want, perfectly legal. And unless you're buying baby formula, certain medications, or a short list of heavily regulated products, those expiration dates you're scanning are more like polite suggestions than actual safety warnings. Think of them as a movie rating, GPGR, meant to guide you, not govern you. So, if those dates aren't coming from federal inspectors in white lab coats, who decides them? Companies do, in boardrooms, not science labs. They run their own internal tests, which can range from months of rigorous checking to just copying whatever a competitor does. There's no standard, no requirement, no oversight. That's why the same bag of cookies might say, good for 6 months in Canada, but only 4 months in Texas. Or the same milk from the same farm gets 10 days in one state and 7 days in another. No, the cows didn't take a road trip and suddenly spoil faster. It's all about local labeling practices. Here's the kicker. Use by, best by, sell by, expires on. They're supposed to mean different things. But in reality, manufacturers and stores use them interchangeably. Imagine having 4 words for yellow, but applying them to everything from a banana to a school bus. Confusing, right? And that confusion? Oh, it's not a bug in the system. It's the system. Because confused shoppers buy more. If you're not sure whether you can trust something past its date, you're more likely to toss it and replace it. Grocery chains and manufacturers figured out that shorter dates create urgency. Urgency means repeat purchases. And repeat purchases mean billions in extra sales. And that food you tossed, you paid for it. The replacement, you paid for that too. It's a perfect cycle where you fund your own waste. American households throw away over 40% of their food every year. Think about that. Almost half of what you bring home goes in the trash, often because of a number on the package that wasn't even designed to protect you from illness. But wait until you hear what happens inside the stores, where expired products go, and how they sometimes get a second life you'd never expect. That's when this whole thing starts to look less like fresh food management and more like a shell game. And that's coming up because once you see how the backroom decisions really work, you'll never walk past a clearance bin the same way again. Behind every perfectly stocked aisle in your local grocery store is a quiet dance, a shuffle of products meant to keep the shelves looking fresh, even if the dates on the packages tell a different story. Expired items aren't always yanked the moment the clock runs out. Many stores train staff to do something far more subtle, move them out of the spotlight into less obvious spots, or even rebrand it entirely. That yogurt that technically expired yesterday, it might slide into a discount bin with a bright yellow manager's special sticker. Those boxes of pasta 2 weeks past their best buy date, they could be bundled with newer stock in a 2-for-1 deal. And sometimes packages get a little cosmetic makeover. New stickers, different packaging, or a promotional label that pulls your eyes away from the small print. Think of it as product retirement being postponed with a fresh coat of paint. It's not always sinister. Employees often take home expired products themselves because they know which dates are about taste quality and which ones actually matter for safety. A 2-year-old can of beans? Perfectly fine. That milk sitting unrefrigerated in the stockroom for an hour? Now that's a problem. But here's where it gets slippery. These decisions aren't uniform. One store in a chain might toss anything the second it expires. Another, just down the street, might keep it for weeks. It all depends on the manager, not on science. Your food safety could be determined by who happened to get promoted last month. And disposal? That's its own maze. Some expired goods get donated to food banks or farms. Others? Straight to the dumpster. The same type of expired peanut butter might feed a struggling family from one store, but rot in a landfill from another, all based on policy, preference, or convenience. This raises the question most shoppers never think about. How long does food actually last? The truth is, much, much longer than the packaging claims. Honey is the poster child for eternal shelf life. Archaeologists have found jars in ancient tombs that were still perfectly edible after thousands of years. Yet modern jars still carry an expiration date, as if honey suddenly learned how to go bad. Why? Legal protection? It's not about safety. It's about shielding the company from lawsuits. Dried goods like rice, pasta, and oats, stored properly, they last for years beyond their printed dates. Canned goods are practically survivalist gold. The same preservation method used for military rations that stay safe for decades. Your expired soup could outlast most of your kitchen gadgets. Even dairy, often treated like a ticking time bomb, can surprise you. Yogurt? Weeks past the date, still fine thanks to those friendly live cultures. Hard cheeses? Months. Milk is the most temperamental. Not because of the printed date, but because of how it's stored and transported. And here's a secret your grandmother probably knew. Your nose, eyes, and tongue are better safety tools than any label. Spoiled food warns you. The smell, the color, the texture, they all scream, "Don't eat me," long before you're in danger. So, if expiration dates aren't really about safety, what are they about? Two things: legal protection and marketing. Legally, those dates are a shield. If you get sick after eating something past the printed date, the company can say you ignored the warning. They don't have to guarantee indefinite safety. Just safety until that tiny number says otherwise. Marketing-wise, expiration dates are brilliant. They create urgency. They get you back in the store. They stop you from stockpiling during sales. They keep your pantry turning over, your fridge emptying, and your wallet opening on schedule. It's a business model disguised as a safety feature, and you're paying for it twice. Once when you buy the food, and again when you replace what you threw out. But here's where the plot thickens. Because not only are these dates often meaningless, some companies are fighting hard to keep them confusing. And the reason why is as much about psychology as it is about profit. That part you need to hear. It's where the system stops looking like neglect and starts looking like strategy. And it's happening in almost every grocery store you visit. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The food industry knows exactly how powerful those little printed numbers are. They've studied your shopping habits, your pantry habits, even the guilt you feel throwing something away. And they've weaponized it. Think about it. If you believed most food stayed good for weeks or months past the printed date, you'd shop less often. You'd finish what you already bought. You'd ignore the need to run out for replacements. That's the opposite of what companies want. So instead of clarifying what those dates really mean, major brands have fought against laws that would require standard, transparent labeling. They prefer vague phrases: best if used by, enjoy by, for best quality. Why? Because those words are fuzzy enough to let you assume the worst. And when you assume the worst, you toss and replace over and over again. It's subtle, but it's devastatingly effective. Confusion doesn't just help sales, it drives them. It's the same psychological trick casinos use. Keep the rules just unclear enough that you're always guessing, always feeding the machine. And grocery stores? They're in on it. Fast turnover means more trips to the store. More trips mean more chances you'll grab extras you didn't plan on. Studies show people buy more when they're shopping in a rush, and nothing creates a rush like thinking you've got a fridge full of expired food. It's a beautiful scam because it feels like your fault. You look at the date, toss the item, and blame yourself for wasting food. The company walks away clean, the store cashes in, and you repeat the process next week. But here's a twist. Sometimes expired products are sold because they're expired. Certain shoppers hunt for clearance bins and discounted items, thinking they're scoring deals. And in a way, they are, if they know what's still safe. But for the store, even a discounted sale is better than a total loss. Behind the scenes, employees know the truth. Many happily take expired goods home, especially shelf-stable ones. They know the difference between tastes a little stale and will actually make you sick. That insider knowledge is exactly what the public doesn't get, because if you had it, you'd buy less. Which brings us back to that milk with yesterday's date sitting quietly on the shelf. You assume it's a mistake. Maybe you even mention it to an employee. But in many states, nothing about that sale is illegal. In fact, it's business as usual. Here's the irony. This isn't a modern problem. Before expiration dates existed, people relied on their senses, storage methods, and common knowledge. But when the industry realized a printed date could both protect them legally and boost sales, it became a permanent fixture. And once you notice it, you start seeing the pattern everywhere. Short dates on perishable goods, slightly longer dates on mid-shelf items, and extremely conservative dates on anything with high profit margins. It's not random. It's mapped out like clockwork. So what does that mean for you? It means you're in the middle of a game you didn't even know you were playing. The rules are unwritten, the score is rigged, and the only way to win is to start recognizing the strategy. And once you see that strategy, you'll realize the expiration date might be the smallest print on the package, but it's the biggest lever controlling how you shop. But here's the part you really need to hear, because there's a growing movement trying to fight this system. It's small now, but it could change everything about how you shop, eat, and save money. And you'll want to know about it before it hits your store shelves. That movement is being led by a mix of consumer advocates, waste reduction nonprofits, and a few brave lawmakers who are starting to ask the uncomfortable questions. If most expiration dates don't actually indicate safety, why are we letting them dictate billions of dollars in waste every year? Groups like ReFed and the Natural Resources Defense Council have been pushing for standardized date labeling. Two clear, universal phrases, one for quality, best if used by, and one for safety, use by. No more vague enjoy before or guaranteed fresh until fluff. Just straight talk about whether your food is still safe to eat. And in some states, the tide is turning. California, for example, passed a law requiring consistent date labeling terms to reduce confusion. Other states are experimenting with public education campaigns to teach people how to store and assess food themselves. Even some big retailers are starting to crack. A few have voluntarily adopted clearer labels after realizing that reducing waste can also be good PR. Walmart, Target, and Kroger have dabbled with standardizing terms, not because they suddenly had a moral awakening, but because sustainability sells now and customers are getting louder about waste. But here's the reality. Industry pushback is fierce. Changing the system means risking shorter sales cycles. It means customers might keep products longer, buy less often, and ignore those stock-up-now impulses. That's lost revenue. And the companies benefiting from the confusion have billions of reasons to keep it exactly the way it is, which is why, for now, the burden falls on you. You have to learn how to read the game, how to look past the printed date and trust your senses, your storage, and a little bit of research. Start with the basics. Canned goods, dried pasta, rice, and sugar. Years past their date if stored in a cool, dry place. Yogurt and hard cheeses, weeks or months past the printed date as long as they smell and look fine. Fresh produce? No date can predict how long it lasts. It's all about storage and handling. Meat and seafood? This is where you stay cautious. The smell test and visual inspection matter more than the label. If you know these rules, you can shop smarter, waste less, and stop feeding a system that's built to make you overbuy. Because here's the hidden irony. The same companies making billions from food waste are also marketing themselves as green, sustainable, and eco-friendly. They'll sell you a reusable grocery bag while banking on you throwing away half of what's inside it. Once you see that hypocrisy, it's hard to unsee. It's like realizing the casino you've been playing in designed every game to keep you losing, but smiling on the way out. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point of pulling back the curtain. Not to make you paranoid, but to make you aware. Because every time you buy something you didn't need, or toss something that's still good, you're playing their game. But the moment you stop, the moment you start questioning every printed date, every manager's special, every clearance bin and panic purchase, that's when you stop being the perfect customer and start being the one they can't control. And in a world where the smallest number on the package can cost you thousands over a lifetime, that's the kind of control you want to take back. So here's the takeaway most people will never hear. Expiration dates are less about protecting you and more about protecting them. They shield companies from lawsuits. They push you into buying replacements early. They train you to doubt your own judgment and rely on a system that was never built with your best interest in mind. Once you know that, you start spotting the tricks everywhere. That loaf of bread with a suspiciously short shelf life? It's not because the bakery suddenly discovered mold's new favorite recipe. It's because faster turnover means you'll be back sooner. That pricey organic salad mix with a use-by date just 3 days out? Not about health, about urgency. And the scariest part? Most shoppers will never question it. They'll keep tossing perfectly good food. They'll keep replacing it without thinking twice. They'll keep the wheel spinning exactly as the industry designed it. But you don't have to. You can slow that wheel down, keep your money in your pocket, and waste less, just by refusing to treat those dates as gospel. Check the food yourself, use your senses, store it well, and understand that when you do throw something away, it should be because it's actually bad, not because the calendar said so. Because the second you stop letting a printed number dictate your decisions, you start breaking the system that's been quietly draining your wallet for years. And imagine this. What if millions of people did that? What if shoppers everywhere stopped panicking over expired food that was still good? The waste mountain would shrink, the sales cycle would slow, and the companies that built their fortunes on confusion would have to play by new rules. That's the kind of change that doesn't start in a boardroom or a state capitol. It starts in your kitchen. So the next time you see a date stamped in tiny black ink on a box, bag, or carton, don't just ask, is this safe? Ask, who benefits if I throw this away right now? Because once you start asking that question, you'll know exactly who's been cashing in on the answer. And here's the thing. This isn't just about saving money. It's about taking back control from a system that's been quietly programming you for decades. A system that's been hiding behind freshness and quality while laughing all the way to the bank. Now you know the truth. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Because if you've been watching this whole time, you already feel it. The rules of the game aren't set in stone. And the moment you stop playing by theirs, you start winning yours.